Here's a GRE geometry question. Let's take a look. The moon follows an elliptical path as it orbits the Earth. At its perigee, that is the smallest distance from Earth, the moon is 225,623 miles away, and at its apogee, that's the largest distance from Earth, it is 252,088 miles away. Now we want to figure out which quantity is greater. The total distance in miles traveled by the moon in one orbit, or 506,000 pi. Well, let me put your mind at ease first. You are not responsible for knowing how to calculate the distance around an ellipsis on the GRE. You don't have to know it. You do, however, have to know how to calculate the circumference around a circle, and that might be a hint here. But you don't actually have to know how to calculate the distance around ellipsis, because remember, the point of quantitative comparison is not to calculate, it's to figure out which one is larger. So if I can use some logic to draw a boundary or set a boundary, I'm on my way. Here's how I'm going to do it. Let me illustrate this, right? It's an elliptical path, so it's an ovalish shape, right? We'll put the Earth somewhere at the center. I don't know if that's the way it is in real life, but we'll just put it there for now. I know that the smallest distance away that the Earth is 225,000. And I know that the largest possible distance that it is 252,000 miles. Now I'll come back to this idea of setting boundaries. They have given us, even though they didn't use this word, a minimum and a maximum. And it's really important to notice when they do that, because that allows us, again, to set boundaries or draw lines in the sand. Let's focus on the maximum, because that's actually where this ends up going. We know that the maximum distance away from Earth that the moon is in this orbit is 252,000 miles. I don't know how to calculate the circumference around an ellipsis, but I do know how to calculate the circumference around a circle. So pretend we had a circle. Pretend that this orbit was circular and not elliptical, and that it traveled, or rather that the radius was 252,000 miles. Well, clearly that's a much bigger circle, or that's a longer distance than what I have with the ellipsis, right? The big circle is definitely bigger than the ellipsis. Well, what's the circumference of that circle? I can figure that out. If the radius is 252,088 miles, right? Then the circumference is 2 times pi times r. That's a little refresher of a formula that you need. And that becomes, 504,000 pi. Well, even in the extreme scenario, this circle is already way too big for the ellipsis. It's still smaller, right? It's still smaller than quantity B. And so I can say that the total distance traveled must be smaller than 506,000 pi, because already 504,000 pi is way too big. Correct answer here is